right.
diesel fuel or gasoline and fertilizer.
Wow. Huh. All right, let's do this. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. Why don't we kick off this work session for today? And why not call up Will Anderson, Director of Department of Economic and Workforce Development, and if the council could turn to page 15, Resolution 102-19. And good afternoon, Mr. Anderson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. No comment on 2122. Okay.
Favored director in Catonsville, wonderful land, Catonsville.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 102-19, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you to the members of the council. This is one of those pieces of business that we all love to do, and this is to allow the state of Maryland to finish off an investment we made with Home Depot to bring a new project to Trade Point Atlantic. So this is part of Maryland Department of Commerce's MEDAF program, the Economic Development Assistance Authority Fund. It's a conditional loan of $800,000 from the state to Home Depot for this project. And you'll remember the county's already done our portion on this earlier this summer, but the project has been delayed at the state level. But now this resolution allows the money to come into the county. And the nature of the project is 2 buildings for Home Depot at 1.5 million square feet. The total investment is $88 million by Home Depot. And, excuse me? 2 buildings.
No, millions.
Oh, millions. I'm sorry. $88 million investment from Home Depot.
Wow, that's great.
And it'll create 250 new jobs down at Sparrows Point. And these buildings will be those jobs will be created by the end of next calendar year. So we're on a fast pace down there for the Home Depot project. And your approval of this resolution will allow state money to come into the project.
Any questions or comments, Councilman Crandall?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Mr. Anderson, thanks as always for your extraordinary time and attention to the project at Trade Point Atlantic. I think the pace of absorption at the site in terms of what's already being built, what's continuing to be planned to be built, the pace is just incredible, and I think it's a direct result of the ongoing public-private partnership that is developing these 3,300, 3,500 acres. So just keep up the good work, and thank you for your effort and your staff's effort on this.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Easy enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Good to see you. All righty. Moving right along, why don't we call up Mr. Mike Molinoff, Director, Department of Permits, Approvals, and Inspections. And with the council, this is, what's his addendum, Mr. Secretary? Is this okay, it's an addendum for Solomon's Exterminating Termite and Pest Control. I know that's dear to Councilman Crandall. And good to see you, Mr. Molinoff. Yeah, it's near and dear to Councilwoman Bevins, too.
Council Chair Quirk, Michael Malinoff, Director of PAI. Sitting next to me is Lionel von Domelen, who is the expert and Chief of Code Enforcement, and he will be here to address any questions on the contract.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Council Chair, before us is a request by PAI to approve a contract with Solomon's Exterminating to perform the court-ordered exterminations, the ALJ-ordered exterminations that might come from violations that have occurred at a property. It is being performed right now. With council approval, the contract will continue for a time of 1 year. Thereafter, there will be 4 one-year renewals. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied today.
All right, any questions or comments from the council? Everybody good? Councilman Bevins. Councilwoman Bevins, did you have
Thank you,
something?
Mr. Chair. Thanks for coming in today. I certainly appreciate, and I know Councilman Crandall does, there has been a significant difference made in these East County neighborhoods, and I'm sure anyone that's on the west side as well. We were getting an average of 5 to 10 complaints a day about rodents, and so this extermination has made a huge difference in quality of life in our neighborhoods. Not that we still don't have a lot of work to do. We have to keep plowing forward, but it's definitely the 2-day trash pickup and this extermination. It took a while, and we're finally there, and it is really making a difference. So I appreciate the efforts of the county executive and your agency.
Thank you.
And,
Councilman Crandall?
well, and I want to thank Mr. Van Domelen and the and PAI for continuing the work. And this particular contract seems that it's a little bit different in that this would pay for court order, not part of the pilot program.
Yes,
Correct.
court-ordered, it's separate from the pilot program,
Okay.
and its 5-year value is $25,000.
Okay. Well, what Kathy said.
Thank you.
Councilman Jones?
Yes, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Van Domelen, but also just to say to everyone involved, our council colleagues from the East, as well as the administration, having been here and saw the community come forward with a problem. They came here, they voiced their concerns, and to see the response from the administration, to see the response from my colleagues, and everything this county government has done to alleviate their problems really speaks very highly of our organization in terms of Baltimore County government and everybody that works here. And I'm just very proud when I think of that situation, how we continue to work through it. But we're making a difference in people's lives, and that's what we're here for. So thanks to everyone involved. Thank you.
Well said.
Anybody else? Is he good? All righty. Well, thank you. Appreciate you guys coming in. All right, moving right along. Council will turn to page 1. We'll call up Patricia Alderman from Department of Corrections. So that's page 1, fiscal matter 2. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with the Electric Motor Repair Company to provide preventive maintenance and repair services for the kitchen equipment for the Department of Corrections, as well as repair services for other county agencies as needed. The contract commenced on July 1st, 2019, and continues until September 30th, 2019, and may not exceed $25,000 unless approved by the council. If approved, the contract will continue through June 30th, 2020, and will renew automatically for 4 additional one-year periods with the option to further extend the initial term or any renewal term an additional 90 days. The contract does not specify maximum compensation for the initial one-year term. Compensation may not exceed $210,000 for the entire 5-year and 3-month term, including the renewal and extension periods. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Easy enough. Thanks
you.
so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
All right, next, how about Deb Schindel from Property Management? Council, turn to page 3, fiscal matter 3. It is page 3? It's fiscal matter 3. Yeah, for third-party elevator inspections. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Council President and council members. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Allsafe Elevator Inspection, LLC, to provide a third-party elevator inspection for elevators and wheelchair lifts in various county-owned and operated buildings. A new state requirement resulting from legislation passed by the Maryland General Assembly in 2018. We have a one-year contract and will renew automatically with 4 additional one-year periods with the option to further extend the initial term of any renewal term an additional 120 days. Compensation may not exceed $85,730 for the entire 5-year and 4-month term, including the renewal and extension period.
Any questions or comments? Everybody, Councilwoman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a comment about the elevator inspections, but I do have a comment about, I wish I would have brought it with me so I could hold it up. I want to thank you for the document that you sent out to the council members. That I've never received a document like that before, showing every single project that you are working on, which ones belong to you, property management, which ones belong in the hands of the school system, and it's broken down in districts, and it's just very helpful to see that, and that's the first time in 9 years I've ever had a document like that from property management, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad it was helpful for you. We'll continue to communicate.
Yep.
Anybody else? Great, thank you so much,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okie dokie, how about Tammy Price from the 911 Center, page 12, miscellaneous business, item number 2, and page 12. And good afternoon, Ms. Price.
Good afternoon, Chairman, council members. The administration is asking approval for Resolution 101-19, authorize the county to accept a donation of up to $161,641 from the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, Emergency Number Systems Board, for the software development and installation required for the protocols to SMS, which is short message service of less than 160 characters, at the county's primary and backup 911 centers. The 911 Center is in the initial phase of the Text to 911 project, which will allow call takers to process text messages in a manner similar to the way we handle emergency calls now. The Protocols to SMS project allows us to receive and process these text messages more efficiently. It will also allow us to integrate our current medical, police, and fire protocols with the incoming SMS messages, generate reports related to this data, and install session board controls which protect against malware. The donation would be funds only for the required software development and installation. The county would be responsible for support and maintenance of the new software at a cost of $1,354 a year for the first 5 years. At the conclusion of the project, the county will request reimbursement from the ENSB, and it's a statewide initiative with the other PSAPs in the state of Maryland, so they're in various stages of these Text to 911 projects. The state of Maryland will be making an official announcement when the statewide jurisdictions are all state Text to 911 available.
That's interesting. So if I needed to contact 911, I could text 911 and get a response?
Not yet,
Okay, so
but
this
that's
would
what
allow
we're
for
working
that.
at.
Okay.
Yes, this is a part of that complete project. This is a piece of it, so that we'll get there.
Okay. That's interesting. Any Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to make a comment. This is so important and so needed when you have situations where there's abuse,
Right.
or there's a crime being committed, and you don't want anybody to hear you, or you're being, abused in your home, and you're terrified to make the phone call. This is going to actually save lives, I believe, by having this system.
Yeah, I think it's great. Any other questions or comments? Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly supportive of this. Just a question on process for Mr. Blades or Ms. Rogers is accepting a gift, a monetary gift, is that the equivalent of a supplemental appropriation? Because we didn't have it budgeted in the fiscal 2020 year, and so is it de facto a supplemental appropriation?
No, I would not consider it a supplemental appropriation. This is acknowledging that the numbers board is going to be paying for the service, and we are accepting a deliverable
Oh,
that they're
I
paying
see.
for.
So we're not responsible. So as I understand, an appropriation is an authorization to spend. And so this doesn't require an authorization to spend, but the authorization to receive.
I actually was involved in creating this way of accepting this. We did this probably about 10 years ago when we realized that we were going to be getting things that were paid for by somebody else that we were going to be taking title to. The charter under Section 306 authorizes the council to accept gifts, and I think some of the philosophy behind that is that the council should be aware of the burdens that the county is taking on for maintenance and personnel and
see.
things like that. So it wasn't going to be an appropriation, but we felt, and I worked this out with Budget and Finance, like I said, about a decade ago, we felt like we still had to honor the requirement of Section 306 of the charter by informing the council that we were going to be taking this on. Because now, a lot of times you've seen this before where some pretty serious equipment is being installed, et cetera, and that brings all sorts of burdens with it. And so, we thought that to vindicate the council's right to know that we're taking this burden on, which I think is the reason for Section 306, we would write it this way.
I see.
But what's happening in these, so what happens with all these, and is that the numbers board is actually paying the third party. The issue is that we're typically taking on some physical piece of property, and the council has the right to accept or reject that.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
Mr. Chair, just a question for clarification, or my education actually. Is this upgrade to our 911 system part of the General Assembly and the governor's initiative to modernize our 911 system? Is this part of that effort, or is this kind of its own initiative?
Are you talking about the next generation?
Yes.
So this was done before that.
Okay.
So this was announced, but it is started part of the governor's statewide initiative. It was his initiative for text to 911.
Okay, thank you. And could you, have you seen the auditor's questions? I'm just kind of curious.
The two that came in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you address those?
So the first question was, do we need to delay utilizing it before the state announcement? There is no requirement of that. However, as a consensus, the Maryland PSAPs as a body have talked about it along with the state, that there are a lot of compelling reasons why we would want to make a statewide announcement rather than individual 911 centers make announcements. One of the biggest being public safety. Some may be ready before others, but the public could misunderstandingly think that one of their own 911 centers was ready ahead of time. They only may have one chance to make that phone call, and if they try to make that text call and it's not available, that could be tragic. And there are some other things to do with public education and consistency of the information. If we have one 911 center that's ready to text, and they can't, then they need to transfer that information, that caller, to another jurisdiction that cannot accept text calls. They can't do that. So then you're stuck in the middle trying to get the information back and forth. And again, that might be that person's only chance to make that call.
Okay, thank you for that. Makes a lot of sense.
Right. In ours, we concurred because of the abundance of caution not to place citizens in a situation where they think that the information is going through and it's not.
Any other questions or comments? Everybody good? Great. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, why don't we call up Real Estate Compliance, Amy Grassi. Council can turn to page 6, and we'll do Fiscal Matter 4, page 6. And good afternoon, Ms. Grassi.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the Council. Fiscal Matter 4 is a contract to acquire property totaling approximately .687 acres for $180,000 to facilitate roadway improvements needed to accommodate the Moores Lane Bridge replacement over the CSX railroad tracks. And I've been here before on this capital project. It is part of the overall Campbell Boulevard extension project and a very important roadway project, bringing high-capacity roads to the east side to facilitate the development at Route 43 and the proper movement of traffic, keeping people out of small roads and neighborhoods and such that I know they suffer from very much over in Middle River. The auditor had asked me a question about our business process for approving a contract amount that is over the appraised value, because in this instance, the appraised value was $161,705, and the contract is for $180,000. When we are in the midst of a negotiation and back and forth with the property owner, it is a conversation that involves property owner, the staff of my office, and the staff in the Department of Public Works and in the Director's Office of Public Works. As you know, the capital budget is approved by the council during the budget process, so when these projects come to me for acquisition, they already have funds approved by the county council as part of the capital budget process. And then within the Department of Public Works, they obviously break up all of their capital projects within the approved funds with whatever budget they have for those projects. And so when we get a counteroffer from a property owner, obviously if it's not reasonable, I have the discretion to turn around and say, that's not reasonable, and, you need to come back with a realistic counteroffer, or I can counter with a counteroffer. When it's well within the scope of reason, I will engage directly with the staff of the Department of Public Works and see where their comfort threshold is on the cost benefit of paying more than the appraised value versus the time it's going to take. If they have time frames on a project where they've got the bid going out and there will be delays of the project, which will then increase the overall costs of the project. There are any number of factors beyond just the appraisal that impact a decision about whether or not to pay more than appraised value. So it's kind of a group effort, a business decision, cost-benefit analysis, and we do consider it very carefully.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Grassi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Grassi, thank you for explaining that. I saw that in the questions from the auditor, and I know you can't see me from the waist down, but I'm doing a happy dance that one more property has been acquired. Do you know how many properties are left?
Maybe two.
Two. So we're definitely making progress.
Yeah.
This Moores Lane, which will be Campbell Boulevard Extended, is really critical to alleviate the traffic. And we're providing so many new jobs in the area, and this is really going to be helpful. I can't wait for you to get that job done, because it's going to be able to let you come all the way through Middle River over to White Marsh. So
and all of that, like I said, is kind of part of the cost-benefit analysis that goes into some of these negotiations and the decisions to pay more than appraised value. It's, like I said, like an overall, for the county, a cost-benefit analysis.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, why don't we do the next fiscal matter, which is fiscal matter 5, and for the council, it's page 9.
And the administration is requesting the approval of a contract to acquire an easement across approximately .029 acres for $5,490 for the replacement of an aging storm drain at 101 Hilton Avenue in the 21228 zip code. Charles Raymond Kinsley and Nancy Kinsley currently own the property, and the storm drain that runs through their property is not accessible and cannot be maintained, so we have to replace it and acquire an easement over the new area.
All right, appreciate your work on it. Any questions or comments? All righty, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, why don't we call up Councilman Patoka's favorite director, Mr. Peter Gutwald, and why don't the council turn to page 18? We'll do miscellaneous business item number 4.
Hello, Peter.
And good afternoon.
Good
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. Resolution 10319 is requesting approval of the contributions of purchase to 5 agricultural easements through the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation. This is the county's contribution to acquire or to put easements over 560 acres through the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation's FY19 easement cycle. The request would provide a little over $1.3 million to the state purchase of these easements, which totals over $4.1 million. As you know, these are one of many different properties that were ranked through the Department of Planning and the Baltimore County Agricultural Land Preservation Advisory Board. All 5 were made offers, and all 5 have accepted those offers. So we are requesting the approval of the money to purchase those easements.
Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. I just want to note that I see Wally Lippincott here, who's an outstanding planner, and I know that he's worked on this, so I have a great deal of confidence that we're doing the right thing here.
I should have mentioned that. Yes, Mr. Lippincott was gracious to join me this afternoon, in case there are any questions.
No, I just want to commend your department and this administration and previous administrations going back, to 1966 when we established the ERDL. I think this is something Baltimore County can be very rightfully proud of, the preservation of our rural north, and thank you to all who are involved in this effort.
Thank you.
I was actually a little surprised Mr. Lippincott wasn't the Councilman Katz on the planning thing, because he knows that area very well.
We noticed.
We got it. We noticed. Any other questions on Resolution 102-19? Is everybody good? All right. Why don't we next then turn to page 23, and that's Resolution 104-19. And I'm tapping the gavel because this is officially a public hearing convened in connection with Resolution 104-19. Which approves and grants 15 agricultural easement applications for sale, development right easements pursuant to the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation fiscal year 2020 easement cycle. Mr. Secretary, are there any speakers signed up for this public hearing on Resolution 104-19?
There are no speakers, Mr. Chair.
Hearing none, this public hearing is now concluded. All right, that was easy. Let's do 104-19.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, Resolution 104-19 is asking the approval of the applications and ranking of 15 agricultural easements totaling approximately into the state's land preservation program, totaling approximately 1,228 acres for the fiscal year 2020 easement cycle. The department received over 31 applications, and through the ranking process with the Agricultural Land Advisory Board and the department, on the page, they've listed out the 15 agricultural easements that will be ranked. They are not in any priority order. They are in alphabetical order because that will be taking place later.
Any questions or comments from the council? Everybody good? Any questions or comments? Easy enough? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All righty.
Thanks, Pete.
Let's see, 7. All right. Why don't we next go to Councilman Marks? If the council could turn to page 34, Resolution 106-19. And Councilman Marks.
Thank you very much. This resolution endorses the naming of a waterway in the Kearney area near Orbitan Road. So for those of you who are not familiar with this part of the county, Kearney is between Perry Hall and I guess the Sater Hill, Loch Raven area. And this is an unnamed waterway that's formed by the convergence of 2 small streams. This change was actually proposed by a resident who did a lot of research on the area and asked for the council to endorse it. This is not something that we invested a tremendous amount of time on, but it is something that is important to this resident, and I think is significant for the community. And I did reach out to the Kearney Improvement Association. They did not oppose this, obviously. This is just a nice thing to do, I think, and I'd like for us to add our stamp of approval to this effort.
Any questions or comments from the council?
And again, I'm sorry. The can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah, again, we're not doing this. We're simply recommending that the United States Board on Geographic Names finalizes this.
All right. All right, next is page 36, and that's Councilman Marks for the Pet Cemetery.
Thank you very much. This resolution would create an ad hoc Pet Cemetery Legislative Policy Committee. The County Council adopted in 2009 and 2012 two pieces of legislation that regulate how pet cemeteries are maintained and how the remains are handled if it's ever developed. And all we would be doing is putting together a committee that would evaluate whether there need to be changes to these two bills. It's something that I could do on my own. I think I have the only private pet cemetery in Baltimore County in my district. You have one, Wade? Is that the Humane Society one? Delaney Valleys. Okay, you have one too. Okay. In your backyard. Well, I stand corrected. I have.
Oh, that's good.
Well then, and the Humane. Okay, then I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Well, then that only reinforces why we should have a committee that's formed by the county council looking at this, because it's a countywide issue, and this is an important issue for people who have pets buried in pet cemeteries, and certainly the one that is in my district, the Oakley Pet Cemetery, is a bit of an issue because it has been poorly maintained over the past decade or so. But I think it's time for the council to establish this type of committee, review the two pieces of legislation, and make any recommendations to us. So this would be advisory in nature.
And who would comprise this committee, and how would they be chosen or something?
So it would be 7 members, and the chairman you would pick. Now that I know there are other pet cemeteries, we may want to amend this resolution to have representatives from your particular areas. But the idea would be a citizen-driven effort advising us.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think the resolution as it was written, since it was thought that this was only a Council 5 issue at that time, I think indicated that the sponsor of the resolution would appoint the 7 members. If that, we can certainly amend that to give more input if the sponsor and the council desires.
Sure.
Whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
Go with whatever you want to.
I mean, if we'll do some research, make sure that these are the only pet cemeteries, and if we want to have specific representatives from your communities, that would be fine with me.
Okay. Any questions, comments, Councilman Crandall?
I guess a question for our attorneys. We do not regulate human cemeteries, but we regulate pet cemeteries?
I believe that's the case. Isn't it?
I think that we're almost probably preempted in terms of human cemeteries, but we've looked a little bit at this when we had the green cemetery stuff come up, and we did get definitive answers. But I think that we'd have something in the code right now on pet cemeteries, it seems to me. So
2009, 2012.
Yeah, there's two bills called out in the fiscal note.
But the state's legislated a decent amount with regard to human cemeteries. I think that we never had to definitively answer the question as to whether or not we're preempted, but it's clear that the state has done some work on this over the years.
Okay. Thank you.
And if the council has any suggested members to seek Councilman Marks, and you can meet and review it.
Yep.
It's interesting. Any other questions, Councilman Couch?
Yeah, I don't know if people on the council realize it, but the costs are very high in some of these cemeteries. I know that for one pet, we paid over $2,000. So
in my yard, I'll give you
half off. Really? Half? Are you a licensed pet cemetery?
Any other questions or comments or donations?
So I didn't touch on the pet cemetery issue, but we have a graveyard, an older graveyard in our district, human graveyard, that the current owners, they don't want it anymore. So there are provisions, according to Mr. Bostwick, there are provisions in the state and a process for how that property is maintained, so it doesn't get overgrown and And I assume that the state would provide the resources to maintain a human graveyard. So,
I'm not sure, Mr. Crandall, but when I looked into it, I was frankly surprised at the bureaucracy involved in cemeteries. And if I recall correctly, there's like a cemetery advisory office of oversight or something like that. And so people with, I guess, complaints and issues can go through that agency or that office, and then on from there.
Okay, I was just curious. So, to anyone's knowledge here or in the chambers, what happens to a pet cemetery when it's full and the owner doesn't want it anymore?
That's what we're dealing. Well, I shouldn't say we're dealing with it at Oakley because it's the current owner. I mean, the 2012 legislation, from what I can remember, basically said that if you had a pet cemetery, you were responsible for notifying, to the best of your ability, people who had pets buried there, and then also making arrangements to move the body. I think that's what it was. Actually,
yes.
Yeah. So, no, we don't want to build houses on this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councilman Capps.
Yeah, one of the Cemetery Oversight Committee was formed mainly to make sure that the finances of the cemetery were in order, because you have perpetual care, et cetera. So they want to make sure that the money is deposited in the bank and kept. But the loophole in the Cemetery Oversight Committee is they have no jurisdiction over religiously owned and run cemeteries, unless none whatsoever. So, and I know there's a lot of cemeteries out there where they are religiously owned by religious institutions, so they're not covered. And the whole, it's called the death industry. And you have your funeral homes, well, I could go on, but unfortunately I was given the task of trying to bring all the sides together, and it's not easy. That's all I'll say.
Councilman Patuka.
Mr. Chair, just to add in, it looks like that the Department of Labor, the state's Department of Labor, has the Maryland Office of Cemetery Oversight, and an affiliated board that does exactly what Councilman Capps suggested.
Councilman Marks.
Yeah, so we did bring up the Oakley Pet Cemetery, and I think, Councilman Crandall, your point is well taken. I'd invite you to drive past the cemetery at some point and see how overgrown it has become. There have been volunteers who have worked very hard to clear up the debris, but the problem is, as you know, we're in a time of the year when leaves fall and it just grows up. The county executive's office has been very helpful to me in seeking an injunction to force the cleanup of this property. In fact, there was a hearing today on this. But I think it is also important for us to look at the statutes and see whether they do protect the rights of pet owners.
Councilman Capps.
Yeah, Councilman Marks, do you know if it becomes overgrown to the point where you have rodent issues and that kind of thing, does the county have the authority to have code enforcement go in and force the owners to take care of it?
Yeah, and the county has done that, actually. They've actually had people go in, and Lionel Van Dommelen and his folks have been very helpful with this. Clear away the brush, clear away trees that have fallen, and they have taken care of it. But as you know, this cost accrues to the taxpayers, unfortunately.
Was it a lien put on the property?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Councilman Marks? Is everybody good? All righty. All right, well, next up, why don't we turn to page 31, which is Resolution 105-19, and I'll start that one off. Resolution 105-19 supports the designation by the Maryland State Arts Council of an Arts and Entertainment District in the Catonsville area and authorizes the county to apply to the Maryland Secretary of Commerce for the creation of such a district. And I know we do have two public speakers. I know Kirby Spencer and Will Anderson are going to be speaking on this. Just a few quick comments. I do want to thank Kirby Spencer, Marilyn Maitland, and the entire Baltimore County Arts Guild for really leading this effort. They put a lot of time and energy. Also, UMBC has been phenomenal, along with the County Executive's Office. You know, Kimmy and Sam, and I know a lot of people have been working on this issue. And I did want to stress to the council that this is just the beginning. Hopefully this is part of a program. We also have other A&E districts around the county. It is a lot of work that goes into this. We were lucky to have a really good volunteer group that really pushed this forward. I do want to note that Arbutus is in support of this, and Arbutus is working with the Arts Guild. At present, the district itself will be a little smaller than original, mostly because the Maryland State Arts Council really wants to make sure the boundary lines are really intact and fairly compact, candidly. But maybe we'll call up the speakers and then open up, see if anybody has questions. I did want to let you know our Catonsville American Idol runner-up, Jeremiah Lloyd Harmon, is also obviously very supportive of this, and he's already done a couple concerts in Catonsville, so we're definitely doing well with arts and entertainment, and hope to have this continue to flourish with things like this A&E district. Before I call the speakers, any questions or comments from the members? All right, why don't we call up one of the people who have definitely been one of the moving drivers behind this, Kirby Spencer, and then followed by Will Anderson. And Ms. Spencer, if you want to come on up, and got up to 3 minutes to talk about how wonderful the A&E district is.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen. Kirby Spencer, Vice President of the Baltimore County Arts Guild, and I'm just here to say how excited we are that the county executive is going forward with this initiative, recognizes the value of not only arts and culture, but how it truly can be an impactful economic driver too, which I'm sure Mr. Anderson will be able to speak to. We are very, very excited at Baltimore County Arts Guild to participate with the county executive in helping form the first arts and entertainment district in the southwest part of the county. But truly, truly our goals are 4 to 5 of these economic drivers within the whole Baltimore County, and we are excited to be a part of that, and thank you so much for the support.
Great. Councilman Patoka?
Thank you for your comments. I just wanted to bring to your attention 1,000 Friends of Pikesville and the Pikesville Armory. There's been many advocates in the arts community that are looking forward to currently the State Military Department owns that site. There's some disposition. It could be a catalyst for great things happening in Pikesville, and as I mentioned, the arts community is pushing for an arts district there as well.
We recognized many different locations in the counties very early on, 3 years ago when we started this project, and we formed a council, A&E Council, and we have Hal and Mel on our council.
Yes.
We are totally behind that project. That is an amazing opportunity. There's opportunities in the north and there's opportunities in the east. So we're really excited on seeing what can happen in Baltimore County over the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I would say I just remember Jack Murphy taking me down to see the torpedo factory, and
that's right.
Kind of see the impact of that on the area. It's pretty neat, and it does generate a lot of people coming into the area that have disposable income and hopefully spend their resources locally. So.
And targeted-wise, it's an opportunity of tourism to grow and expand for Baltimore County. So we're very excited. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Spencer. All right, next our favorite director from Catonsville, Mr. Will Anderson. Thanks for coming back up. Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. So this is me with my economic development hat on, but also me with my 21228 hat on, but principally economic development. This is, we really appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you championing this. When County Executive Olszewski put his priorities together, you saw economic development, you saw arts and entertainment and tourism, and a focus on our neighborhoods, the strength inside our corridors. And this is a perfect example of that. We tried this once. We kind of pushed the ball up the hill, and it rolled back down on us a year ago, and we put a new team together on it. On our team, Chris McCollum really honchoed a lot of this. We had planning with Pete's team, and why are we even bothering to do it? If you look at where these things live, in the city they have several arts districts, in Annapolis and Frederick. They generate a lot of quality of life stuff for ourselves, not just for the attraction side of it, but getting our families to benefit by having artists that can afford to be in these great corridors. They are true economic development drivers. So it was wonderful to see with Kirby Spencer and the Arts Guild pulling together that who's going to go first, who's ready to go first. Is Pikesville, is Dundalk, is Towson, is somebody else ready to go first? And Catonsville really was, not just because of Music City, Maryland, but there's a cluster of folks that were ready to get behind it. And with your leadership, Mr. Chairman, I think this has got to be the best application the state has seen. I cannot imagine what we put together was remarkable in the tour that we took them on. We're definitely getting this. So we'll be back up to do these again and again and kind of dogpile on our commercial revitalization districts. They're just that important to our county, and we have the opportunity all across the county. So thank you for moving the ball forward.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any other questions or comments from the council? All righty. Thanks so much. Appreciate you coming in. I know John Lee from WYPR is interested in doing a story on this as well, so I'll try to connect him up with what's going on. All right. Let's keep moving forward then. Why don't we call up Managing Administrative Law Judge, Mr. Paul Mayhew. Council could turn to for the appointment. Council could turn to, actually we have does everybody have the, everybody good? Mr. Mayhew, any relation to Jeff Mayhew?
No, I'm not. We've talked about that.
Okay.
But I'm obviously a lot better looking than him, and we never have been able to find a common relative.
There you go. Well, we do appreciate you coming in, and we do appreciate your service. And why don't you just begin, and then we'll open up for questions or
Sure.
answers.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to be here. I thank the county exec and the folks that worked with him on the vetting process. I do believe I'm a very qualified candidate. It's been a pleasure to kind of see the workings of government here this afternoon. I've been, of course, over the years to a couple work sessions, but this is obviously where, I hate the expression, but where the rubber meets the road. And Kirby Spencer happens to be a neighbor of mine. I own a home in Catonsville, and currently living in Reisterstown. I have deep county roots, and I've given almost 25 years of service to the county at the county attorney's office. I'm committed to the county. I care about the future of the county, and I think the new administration is heading us in a good direction, and I want to be a part of that, working with them and with you. I appreciate the fact that many of you, Mr. Patoka in particular, have planning experience and real practical experience in these areas. But I know that all of you deal with these issues on a daily basis with your constituents. Nothing is more important to a person than their home. It's for the average person like myself, their most important and most valuable possession. And these issues that I hope I'm fortunate enough to preside over are very important to people. And I intend to take the job very seriously. I think I'm a fair-minded open-minded person, and that's what I will bring to the job. I believe my years of litigation experience, and I've handled the most complex litigation the county has faced over the last 20 years in the state and federal courts. I've been to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals numerous times. I know how a courtroom is supposed to be run and how it is run efficiently and fairly, and I believe that experience will behoove me in running an efficient courtroom across the street and a fair courtroom across the street, and that's what I intend to do. I'm also very mindful of the fact that the county council has written the laws that are in place, and no matter how I might feel about the facts of a given case, it's my job and it will be my sworn duty to apply the law that you folks have written, not the law that I think should have been written. So I'm very mindful of that. I do believe the administration's continuing push towards the preservation of open space and the revitalization of older neighborhoods. As I said, I live in Catonsville, and I can tell you in the 25 years I've been there, I've seen a great transformation of the Main Street area and a revitalization of the whole area that is lifting the fringe of Catonsville. So I think I have a good appreciation for the real value of good zoning laws and the wise implementation of land use policies.
Great. Well, we appreciate that. Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service to Baltimore County. It is extremely commendable, and I've heard a lot of nice things about you. I appreciated your comments about the fact that you're in a quasi-judicial position, I guess, and mirroring the debate at the federal level. Your job is to interpret the law that is set by the council. There have been times I've disagreed with some decisions where I thought the administrative law judge may have not done that, or the deputy zoning commissioner, or whoever in previous reincarnations. So my question is this. We have this lingering debate over the force of the master plan and community plans versus zoning. And I've heard people argue both sides, that zoning trumps community plans and master plans, and then I've had some people say the opposite. What is your thought on that?
My thought on it, and I don't claim to be a subject matter expert yet. I will work very hard to become one, but my thought on it from the standpoint of my legal background is that, in general, a specific law is going to control over a general law. In other words, if there's an overarching statement of principle or purpose that directly conflicts with a specific zoning provision, then that zoning provision does, I believe, control. If there is room for reasonable minds to differ as to the application or meaning of a zoning law, then of course I would look to the maps and the more general statements of purpose and give it that shading or that interpretation. Does that make sense?
I think so. So if the council were to say in a community plan X, that would have some power with you, correct?
Certainly.
Okay. The next question I had, a lot of your background deals with kind of human resource issues, or personnel law,
Yes.
employment discrimination. I know the duties of the two judges have been bifurcated. Mr. Stahl, I believe you do a lot of code enforcement issues, and Mr. Beverungen did a lot of the development decisions. And I think,
Yes.
Mr. Stahl, you did a lot of the personnel issues, like the... Okay. Do you envision that you will be doing any of those, or will you mainly be doing land use?
I'm not going to come in and try to immediately change the way anything is working. I will feel completely comfortable doing any and all things that our office is asked to do. I have great experience in employment matters. I've really been probably the primary advisor for the Office of Human Resources over the last 5 to 10 years, of course, under Mr. Field. So I understand the issues, and I've done a lot of litigation in the employment sector. So I'm perfectly comfortable doing it. It seems to me the office has been working pretty well. I may not be able to immediately come in and crank things out at the rate my predecessor, Mr. Beverungen, was. So if I need some assistance from Mr. Stahl in the early going, I will certainly ask for it, and I'm sure he'll give it to me. But I see no reason to upset the apple cart because I think it's rolling along pretty well. So my goal is to take over where John left off. I know he's I think by all accounts done an extraordinary job there, and I do understand the importance of keeping the trains running, so to speak, and I intend to do that. I may be working, long days for a while, but I'm not opposed to that.
Thank you.
Other Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Mr. Mayhew. I think the other Mr. Mayhew is a very handsome gentleman. And you too.
Thank you.
A question do you live in the 1st District or the 2nd District? 'Cause
I own a
saw the
home.
Reisterstown address.
Yes, I own a home in the 1st District. I'm living with a beautiful woman in your district, sir.
In the beautiful 2nd District.
In the beautiful 2nd
As
District.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I see that you have worked on RLUIPA cases.
Yes, I have.
Could you describe those cases?
In a word, they're a nightmare.
Yeah, they're tough.
And that's one of the things that I think my litigation experience will serve the county well with. That was a terrible grammatical sentence, but I think my experience in RLUIPA cases and First Amendment cases and other related due process type cases may help us avoid some litigation early on by enabling me to spot potential federal pitfalls that can be avoided by tweaking an order one way or the other, or being sensitive to the fact that these things may be an issue. But yes, RLUIPA it's a very sweeping federal law that the courts are frankly really all over the place still on. And a judge can essentially find a case to go any way they want. And so it's a very hard statute to give advice under. In other words, I'm sure you've asked Mr. Field, where do you think these cases are going? And it's frankly impossible, and myself and Mr. Nolan were working on them exclusively early on. And as you know, we brought outside counsel aboard because they're so complex and so hard to predict. But it gives any religious group a lot of weight to come in and say to a local government, we are entitled to benefits that secular uses frankly aren't, even though that's supposedly not what the law is supposed to mean. As a practical matter, if you look at the cases, they have the leverage to do it because these cases are so expensive to litigate, and they're so expensive if you lose when you start paying attorney's fees and judgments. So it's a very difficult federal law to grapple with at the local level, but it's one of those unfunded mandates that the sages on Capitol Hill really didn't think through, I don't think. But it's a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayhew, thank you for your years of service in our law department. And I guess I want to talk a little bit about, I know this won't fall completely under you, that it will also be with Mr. Stahl. I heard you say several times you would be very mindful of things. And I'm going to ask you to be very mindful, and it won't take long for you to figure out who the frequent flyers are in Baltimore County. And I'm sure we all have them in our district. And I know that people have their day in court and they get due process.
Yes.
But I have to tell you, it is a problem in communities when you have homes that are deteriorating, that their windows are broken, they've been abandoned for years, vacant, or somebody just doesn't care, that people are called in several times a year. Their fines are either dismissed or reduced to such a small amount. It's not important to them. But I'll tell you who it's important to. It's important to me, and it's important to the other people that live in the community that can't sell their homes because of the home next door and what it looks like and really what that does to a community. And we have had conversations since I've been in office, and I'm sure there were many before I began to serve, about what to do with these types of homes. It just took me 7 years to get a house raised.
Yeah.
7 years to get a house raised. It was just so detrimental to the community. And again, I know everybody has their due process, but I think that we really have to look at this as a whole for the community and what is it doing to the rest of the communities. And for me, I would say no reducing of fines. I know that the objective is not to get rich off of our constituency, right? It's to make them to come into compliance. And I would love to see compliance as well. But when you have somebody that's standing before the law judge 3 and 4 and 5 times a year, that's a problem. And I would not like to see a reduction in fines, and I would like to see you be more tougher on those folks that are letting that happen to a property in a community. It's very important. I can't speak for anyone else up here, but I think we all have. Yeah,
We all agree.
We have formed committees. We have done everything that we can, I think, as a body to work with community associations, but it's become such a burden on our community associations and our community leaders and our stakeholders that it's just every day, we're fighting this. And, we talk about the revitalization of our communities. You can't do that if you have 1 or 2 houses in the community that's in the middle of your community.
Sure. I understand.
So I'm sure that will be, you'll get a little bit of that. And I'm just asking, I don't think leniency helps in those situations.
Yeah, I suppose the problem, I'm not going to sit here and act as if I will have some kind of magic wand. There have been, of course, smart, competent people in my seat before myself, but I suspect the biggest problem is the old getting blood from a stone. And if your real only practical solution is to place liens on properties, if people either don't have the money to pay the fine or you can't get them into court in the first place, placing a lien will ultimately someday hopefully recompense the county, but it's not a practical solution.
Right, that's not the solution for
Right.
the community.
So,
yeah. It's a tough one.
It is. So there are, of course, common law things that the county could do in terms of bringing, nuisance actions, and
Right.
but they take time. They do, because people do have property rights, and by the time something weaves its way through the courts, we're talking years, not weeks and months. So certainly appreciate the problem. It's a real problem.
It is, yeah.
And I will certainly do everything in my power to alleviate it where I can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayhew. I appreciate that.
Other questions or comments from the council? Oh, Councilman Marks?
One more, a brief comment. I completely agree with Councilwoman Bevins. I mean, there's a real problem when code enforcement has 1,000 properties at any point in the day in the summer that have tall grass that they have to go out and mow. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We all deal with it. I mean, I bet 80% of my constituent issues are dealing with irresponsibility. Seriously, I mean, tall grass and so on. So I completely echo what you say. And I just need to bring this up because it's a problem that's very unique to my district. The unrelated individual law, not allowing more than 2 unrelated individuals in a house.
Yeah.
And administrative law judges have done the right thing, I think, in denying boarding house permits for more than that. I look to Mr. Stahl. I appreciate his help with that. But just please remember, the communities are the ones that have to go out there and record license plate numbers, and the onus is on them to try to prove their case. And it's something that increasingly the communities near Towson University are getting very frustrated with.
I'm sure you are, and I will be sensitive to that. I certainly, we've all lived at one time or another next to a terrible neighbor or two, and it ruins your quality of life. So, very mindful of that.
Other questions or comments? Everybody good? Councilman Jones?
I'll be brief. Congratulations on your appointment, sir.
Thank you, Councilman.
Or nomination, I should say. You're welcome.
Almost
I
appointment.
will
Almost.
say this to you, sir. You may be happy to know that I'm from a family of firefighters. My grandfather, great-grandfather, dad, and brother is still on the force, and my nephew is the 5th generation of D.C. firefighter. So
great.
I was the black sheep in my family when I went to law school.
Well, that's
You know,
okay. You're obviously from good stock, I
Yeah.
can tell.
All right. Well, thank you.
There you go. And yeah, Mr. Mayhew, we really do appreciate your soon-to-be service on this very important position. And obviously, Mr. Bostwick, like right before he took this job, he served as Deputy Zoning Commissioner from 2007 to 2011.
Yes, sir.
And not an easy job. Not an
No,
easy job.
sir. All the problems that you all have alluded to and directly mentioned, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we definitely really do appreciate your service and your willingness to step forward and help the citizens of the county. And I wish you the very best.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this next chapter.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming
Okay.
in and appreciate your time.
Thanks for your time.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Lawrence Stahl, and Deputy Zoning Commissioner for the appointment and Managing Administrative Law Judge. And it's good to see you. I think we all knew you, and we very much appreciate you coming in today. So the floor is yours. And thanks for your patience, too.
That's quite all right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I was very honored in 2011 to be asked to work full-time for the county, and I was actually the person who set up the structure, which is the Office of Administrative Hearings. During that period of time, I brought together all of the different departments who assigned their hearing responsibilities to us, met with all the departments, set up our structures, our routines, our evidentiary procedures, and tried to, I think, successfully construct an entity which is based on a number of basic precepts. One, that it be a very, very professionally run entity. Two, that it be as transparent and as appreciative of the communities and the community input that we deal with. And at the same time, to follow the law, but at the same time as we follow the law, to work towards solutions, to try to bring an end to problems. Unfortunately, under the prior system, there was not always a finality to matters that came up. And I wanted the OAH to be the last stop to the extent that it could to bring matters to a conclusion. My background, I've been as I said, on the Office of Administrative Hearings since January of 2011. Prior to that, I served 16 years on the Board of Appeals. I served with Mr. Marks's father and we were very, very collaborative in a lot of the things we did. I was the Board of Appeals chairman for 4 years. Prior to that, I was a litigator and managing partner of a law firm. I've been active in community and bar association activities throughout all of those years. I'm a proud resident of the 2nd District and very, very cognizant of a lot of the issues that Ms. Bevins brought up. And I just want to say something about that. As an entity, we see a tremendous number of people and communities per week. I sit Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday mornings for the code enforcement docket. And that's not just Mr. Van Domlin's folks, but the housing inspectors, the plumbing inspectors, the electrical inspectors. I hear on separate dockets the health department, the environmental people. And they all come with problems. Many times an inspector will come in and will admit, after going through the history of what they had tried to do with a particular owner, that they had really come to the end of their rope and decided to write a citation to bring that person or entity in front of me and to attempt to bring some finality to it. Major problem we have with a lot of the problem properties is that these people simply don't show up. A failure to appear is entered. The full amount of the fine is entered. It becomes a lien ultimately on the property, and Paul spoke about that a few minutes ago. It's always been my procedure to provide the county with the authority that I can grant for the county, and this is not just for PAI, but for the health department and other agencies, to provide the county agency involved with the authority to act to ameliorate and deal with the problem. Sometimes that's a matter of, and it changes from department to department, whether they have the budget and the ability to actually carry out what I've given them authority to do. But I always try to leave them with the ability to go forward and to do something if there's nobody who shows up and we're stuck with a property and an owner who evidently doesn't care. Very often, we will have a problem property and the owner will show up. And I will look them in the face and say very simply, this is your first and last chance. I'm going to put the major fine on you. I'm going to give you some incentive to carry it out. And usually in conjunction with what the inspector recommends at that point, I will set a very limited timetable for the amelioration of what the particular problem is. And I tell them that if it is not done, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, the full fine is going to be imposed automatically. And number 2, the inspector is going to immediately write another citation, and you will come back in front of me. And I'm told by a number of inspectors and attorneys that coming back in front of me after my previous training as an assistant state's attorney and litigator is not always a very pleasant experience. And I'm proud to say that a lot of problems have been ameliorated within those time frames. The real bad actors are going to be the real bad actors. And to the extent that the OAH can do something and empower the county to take further steps, we do. I'm very proud of what we do, what I particularly do, as it relates to, for lack of a better term, the little critter control in Baltimore County. My sessions are not only punitive, they're educational. I want people to understand why these regulations exist, what the problem is, and why they're doing certain simple acts in conformance with the law can have a major importance. I've had any number of occasions where community associations, who will often come to the hearings or send someone to the hearings, have come up to me afterwards and said they understand much more now what can be done and why things need to be done. I make suggestions. I make comments as to what can be done to alleviate particular problems in a community. And in conjunction with Mr. Van Domlen's troops, I like to think that I've had some effect both on a lot of the communities and on the little critter problem that very much abounds in certain parts of our county. My attitude is a very simple one. The OAH, as much as it can possibly be, needs to be an effective arm of government. It needs to accomplish more than just having a hearing. It needs to accomplish results. It can't win every battle. It can't overcome every obstacle. But it can be an extremely useful and effective way of turning what's on paper into actions. Mr. Marks mentioned having more people living in a house than are supposed to be in a house. I can always tell in August, in September, and in December and May, all of the cases involving the colleges that happen, where additional people will move in, and you're only supposed to have the limited number of people, and there are more. At one point, most of those cases were having problems, because though the folks knew that or suspected that there were difficulties, it was very difficult for them to prove it, and especially when lawyers came in representing landlords. I took it upon myself, as I do with a number of county departments who appear in front of me, and I do it from the bench, so everybody hears it, everybody sees it, is to say to people, if you're going to want to prove this, these are the kinds of things that I'm going to need. I'm going to need a log of vehicles coming in and out. I'm going to need photographs of license plate numbers, which I can then have the county folks who bring the cases check against MVA records and see who the owners are. It's very important to be able to establish properly that something untoward is going on. I'm happy to say that many of the local community associations in and around the colleges are now starting to do that and have been doing that for a good period of time. And more often than not, they make their case, and I'm able to very, very quickly remedy the situation and have the landlord make the adjustments that he needs to make, knowing, and I usually say this to the community, this is not the end of it. He's agreed, you've established for me that this is going on. Mr. Landlord, you now know that I know this is going on. This needs to stop within the next week, 2 weeks, whatever the period of time is, and be assured that after that, the community is going to continue to watch. It's going to continue to do its part. And again, you don't, Mr. Landlord, want to come back in front of me again and have the same problem that you had before. I love the job. I enjoy it immensely. I enjoy the back and forth with the folks. For many of them, it's probably the only person-to-person, face-to-face connection they've had with county government. They come in, they lose time from work. Very often they have to pay fines. Very often they understand that they're paying fines for something they didn't realize was a violation, but understand that they need to pay something. I was always a firm believer in that a simple slap on the wrist doesn't work. There's got to be some pain, albeit a smaller amount of pain. So when people don't understand about garbage and they don't understand about junk and debris, but they're good folks. I mean, they live in a house and they've lived there for a while. They still have to pay some amount of money because they're going to remember the next time that it could be a whole lot worse. And I always tell the assistant county attorney and the inspector folks that if you have someone who is a repeat offender, always call those cases first. And I act accordingly to impose the major fines and the major parts of the fines to those people who are recidivists. And then as the rest of the folks come up, it's easy to say to them, I don't doubt that you've learned, I don't doubt that you've now assigned in your own mind that you're going to do things in a proper way. You've also seen what happens when you don't. And that message is not lost on most folks. So I've been reappointed. I'd like to sit for another term. I think I can be an effective part of the county's apparatus. I think, and I have proven, I think, that I can be fair. I sit in here grievances also. I hear retirement appeal cases. And I do hear some zoning and land development matters. In fact, I have some this week and some next week. And I would very much like to remain for the next 4 years as the administrative law judge.
Great, I appreciate that. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilwoman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have two comments, and thank you for speaking on those matters. The one thing that stood out to me was when you said when the inspector gets to the end of his ropes, then he calls them in to see me. I think that it needs to happen a lot sooner than that. I think it should go to correction notice. They don't comply with the correction notice, it should go to citation. When they don't do citation, I think that's when they need to come in to see you, because so much time lapses that we're talking sometimes 6 months to a year, or postponements and all that, and the whole time, no matter what, how small or large the code enforcement issue may be, the community is suffering that entire time.
Yeah.
So I think that you want to be compassionate, but I think the sooner that you get people in and educate them and threaten them with a fine, the sooner we can bring them into compliance. And I just want to add to the boarding house situation. I have a few of those situations in my district, and I know they're very, very hard to prove. But when you, I guess, I'm just looking at the standpoint of safety. Communities try to help as much as they can, but when you have communities writing down license plates and taking pictures, I think that you're putting them at risk, and I don't think the community should have to be that involved in something like that, because they could think that, maybe somebody in that boarding house is dealing drugs, and they think that you're writing down license plate numbers for the police and not code enforcement, and that could really be an issue for people. And
yeah, I understand
so
that that's a difficult
I'm not saying the community
situation.
shouldn't be involved, but to put such a burden, on the citizens for something like that, I think that it could be more enforced by code enforcement as well. And I know usually the cars are there in the evening and the weekends,
And that's one of the ways to show. You can show the pattern of when they come and how long they stay and when they leave.
I know, yeah. And if you could do it from your window, that would be great. But if you
Most
have to
of-
walk down
mo-
the street and
most
do
of
all
them
that,
are-
I would worry about people.
Yeah, most of them are neighbors, are immediately available neighbors, who frankly have been much concerned about it. And once the word's gotten around of what you could do in order to establish the case, I've found that there are always folks who are willing to step up. I mean, I appreciate what you're saying.
Right.
And as far as the inspectors are concerned, they're good people trying to do a hard job.
Oh, sure, I know that.
And some of them are easier than others. There isn't always a lot of consistency, but because they're individual people dealing with other individual people, my advice to them is, when in doubt, bring it in, and I'll take it from there.
Have you ever been able to, have you ever shut down a boarding house?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you have, okay.
Oh, any number of times.
Good, okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, comments from the council? Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judge Stahl, I just wanted to say that I enjoyed visiting your synagogue, and I hope to be there again sometime soon.
We appreciate it. You're always welcome.
Thank you.
Councilman Marks?
Just echo my comments from before. I've always had a good relationship with you. I've always thought you've been very fair. I appreciate that, and my father says hello. Thank you.
Say hello for me also.
Great. Anybody else before we wrap up? Appreciate Councilman Jones.
Just congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And we appreciate your service to the public. And thank you so much for coming in and talking with us and keeping the good fight going, for sure, for the county.
I appreciate that, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And on that note, I think we conclude the work session for the day. I wish everybody a safe drive home and a happy evening. Take care.
that way a woman pulled him